Welcome to Sales for Nerds. I'm your host and chief nerd, Ruben Swartz. If you started a business because you love serving clients but realized you didn't like the sales and marketing aspect of running that business so much, this is the podcast for you. Sales and marketing doesn't have to suck. It can actually be a lot of fun. And on this show, we're going to teach you how to connect instead of network, teach instead of market, help instead of sell, so you can keep serving people even while you're building your pipeline and growing your business. Now let's get to it. Today, I'm super excited to have with me Jay Kingley. He is the CEO and co-founder of Maven, where he works with consultants and other providers of expertise to make referrals more predictable. He helps people become more referable. So many people listen to this podcast rely on referrals to get business, but a lot of folks kind of just have this more of a prayer ritual than anything else, hoping that referrals come in. Jay's going to teach us how to make this happen more reliably and more sustainably. Jay, welcome to Sales for Nerds. What do you have in your glass?
I have a California Merlot, a few years old. Actually quite nice.
Well, and if you're not watching this on video, Jay gives himself a healthy pour. The Jay is my kind of guy.
It's a small glass, Ruben.
I don't
That's my
know.
counter.
It looks like it's almost full. And I've got this Sir Paso Tuscan Red, which is quite delicious. Unfortunately, I only have a little bit left, so I have to pace myself a little bit better than Jay. But anyway, Jay, I'm guessing you didn't grow up thinking, gosh, I'm going to teach people how to be more referable. How did you get into this line of work?
Well, the somewhat short version is I was a chemical engineer, did that for a few years, went to business school, and decided to go into management consulting because I loved solving problems. And in particular, having been a fourth generation small business family, I grew up with business and solving business and what have you. So it was sort of in my blood, and I ended up after business school going over to London, and I joined a firm that had spun out of Bain and Company. We did strategic consulting M&A for multinationals at the sort of C-suite level. So it was great, and I loved doing the work. And I moved up the line, became what we called a manager, and that meant I was in charge of delivering. And then one day they said, "You're doing really well. We'd like to put you forward for partner." And I said, "Well, what's that look like?" And they said, "In addition, you could make actually some good money. You're really just a salesperson." I'm like, "I don't sell. No, thank you. It's not who I am." So I thought about, is that the end? Do I leave? Do I get another job? But being young, being a little bit ambitious, I decided, let's give it a try. And although I was pretty confident I was going to flame out. So, but no regrets. So I went and they elected me, and I start doing the client acquisition. And no one really teaches you. They throw you in the water and you figure it out. So I looked around at how the other partners did it. And here's what was their go-to: entertaining clients, take them out to dinner, build a relationship, do some things. I'll date myself a little bit. This was in the 90s that you probably couldn't do today and get away with it. But everything is relative to its time. And Ruben, that was not me at all. I was the guy who just solved problems, loved to talk shop, not go out and take my free time and spend it with these guys. So I said, I don't really think I can do that. It's not who I am. I'm going to do it my way. I'll fail, but at least I can say I tried it. And much to my surprise, it worked. And in no time at all, I became the number one revenue generator.
By avoiding all the stuff that the other people were doing. So what were you doing?
So what I would do is I would spend time reading and talking and understanding what was going on in the world of my clients. And then I would come up with some point of view. Maybe I heard some rumors about something, or maybe I could see an opportunity, or I heard about maybe a pending regulatory change. And I would think about, what would this mean for the CEO of my client? Then I'd call him up. I'd say, got 15 minutes? Hey, did you hear about? No, what's going on? And so I'd say, well, this is what's going on, and this is what I think it means for you. And this is how I would be thinking about it and what I would be doing about it. And that was it. And by the way, this didn't necessarily have anything to do with the type of work I did. It was relevant to that CEO. And so often what I would experience, and this is literally a 15-minute call, is at the end they would say, Jet, now that I got you on the line, funny because I called them, they would say, there's actually something I need you to do for us. And it was blah, 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 blah. What do you think? And I would say, well, it's going to be 7 figures. We're in the millions here to do that. He says, when can you start? And what I realized was a lot of times asking me to do things didn't always make sense. And then it dawned on me that they were sort of making this up in real time. I didn't quite understand why, but it's like they just wanted me and my team to do something for them. And my colleagues would say, how are you doing this? You're a young guy. You don't do what we do. And I just said, well, I just call these guys up and we talk, and then they ask me to do work. And they went, what's your pitch? But I don't pitch. They ask. And it got to the point where I started to say no because I was too busy. And I did some entrepreneurial, and I went back into the consulting world and did it all over again. And but I still would tell you I didn't honestly know how it worked, but man, it worked. So fast forward, after doing some other entrepreneurial ventures, my partner, still my partner, but this was 18 years ago, we said, let's go start a consulting firm, work for entrepreneurs, not for the big guys, for little guy entrepreneurs. Well, how are we going to get our clients? I'm like, I don't know. I know how I did it when I was after multinationals. I don't know how it works like this. So we asked all the experts, read the books, read the articles, join the BNIs and the chambers at every level, the alumni associations, you name it, we did everything that they tell you to do. And it all worked, and none of it worked. And what I mean, it's never 0 or 1. It was sort of working, but when I looked at the return on time, it was just too low. And after doing this for a year, I looked at my partner and I said, are we idiots? Are we that clueless that we can't figure this out? Or is there something fundamentally flawed? And he said, the advantage of having our own business is we can sort of on the side of doing our consulting work, figure this out. So we spent a 1.5 years researching both primary and secondary, and then came to the realization that actually none of the experts were very expert. No one really understood how to do this. And most of the people telling you how to do it didn't really care. They had ulterior motives. So
they picked up their check and they were gone.
Or if like you're in a chamber, what do chambers care about? Public policy. What do they need to do public policy? They need a big membership so they can say they represent the businesses. That's mostly small businesses, but they're focused on the big businesses who are their members. So what do they give the small members? They throw them a bone. Let's do a networking event. Yay. But it's not what they care about, right? Even a group like a BNI, I think they are an amazing group if you are hyper local and business to consumer. Mm-hmm. That's what their sweet spot is. So now you join as a B2B where you're not hyper local. It doesn't work. And you sit there and you say to yourself, why isn't it working for me? It seems to work for the realtor, seems to work for the florist, but it's not working for me, the consultant. So we sort of had this aha of how to do it. And it turns out it was exactly what I used to do. But now I understood why. And then it was sort of obvious. Why don't we pivot our business and help others who have been in our shoes, who are struggling, but are actually great at what they do? And they deserve a business that's as good as their capabilities for their clients.
So you basically did what they call these days, you were a thought leader and a quote unquote trusted advisor, except you weren't trying to be a thought leader or a trusted advisor. You were just trying to help people out and provide value to folks. And lo and behold, they wanted to work with you. Am I summarizing correctly?
I think it's a good summary. And the other thing sometimes that people say to me is, I would love to have my own business. What should I do? And the best advice I ever got, which I implemented for myself and my partner, is what's a real big problem that you have that no one else has solved? Solve it for yourself, because no one will understand it like you will. And you know, at the end of the day, we're not that unique. If you have the problem, lots of people have the problem. And
Cheers to that.
that was the genesis of this. Yeah.
So now that you've sort of had the time to deconstruct the process, what is it that makes this work? What should people be doing if you're listening to this and you're a consultant, you're trying to make this referability happen? What are the best practices, or what are people typically doing incorrectly?
So every time I meet a consultant or a fractional executive coach, anyone who I say is providing expertise as a service, and I always say to them, give me your elevator pitch, because that's a clear, concise way of doing it. And I would say 98% of the people I talk to will use this format. I solve these problems for these types of clients by providing this type of a service. Now, some people do it incredibly well in terms of articulating it, and some people are really bad, but they all aspire to that type of template, or at least 98% of them aspire to that type of a template. And I always ask people, so that sounds about right. Like, that's how you should message yourself. And they all said, yeah, I just want to get better at it. And this is what I say to them. So there are 2% who do it differently. And the 2% who do it differently are massively successful. They are like I was. They are turning away business. They are picking and choosing who they want to work with, what they want to work on. They are getting pricing that's 20, 50, even 100% higher than their competitors. And they have predictability in terms of their pipeline. They do not lose sleep about where their future revenues are coming from. So what is it that they do differently than the 98% struggle with? It's this. That format I just gave you, I solve these problems for these clients by providing this service, is about me. It's what I do. I'm basically saying to my marketplace, hire me and I will be the hero of your story. And people are like, okay, yes, because I'm really good at what I do. I can be the hero. But here's what the 2% understand that the 98% don't. What people really want is they want to be the hero of their own story. So how can you make them the hero of the story where you're just the storyteller? So when you begin to craft your positioning, your messaging, your value proposition with that insight in mind, then you can get out of the struggling 98% and into the flourishing 2%. Now, there's some really practical things we do. Now, I want to give a few tips, right? When you work on that message, there is no first person. You cannot say I, we, us, my. No first person. Strongly discourage third person. This is second person. I am talking to you, and I understand you. I understand what you're thinking. I understand what you're feeling. I understand your challenge. And I am going to give you insights into how you should change your thinking to get rid of that pain that you have and get the gain that you deserve. So that is the number one issue that people get wrong, is they make it about now, they don't think they're doing that, but they are, and they're making it about trying to make themselves to be the hero. It's not what any of us want when we're buying. So that is the first and foremost thing that you've got to do to change your thinking. Now, I think the other thing is that the way we look at it, there are 3 stages of how you should be doing your sales that are a function of where you are with your marketing. So marketing and sales are related. Marketing, real simple, any one-to-many communication. Sales, any one-to-one communication. Sales is not, I'm asking for business, it's just a one-to-one. So I can customize it. Marketing, I can't customize it, right? It has to work for the group. Now, where people are, so I talk about 3 stages, a lot of people are in stage 0. And what's stage 0? That's random acts of marketing delivered via spray and pray. I had one woman say to me, I asked her, tell me about what you're doing to get clients. She says, well, I like to view what I'm doing as experimenting. I said, so you don't have a clue. And you're just spraying it all out there, hoping something sticks. Okay. How's that working for you? You're not even viable. All right.
Yep.
But the first stage that you go to that can make you viable is targeted outbound prospecting, where you've focused in on the decision maker in the target market. You understand the pain point you're going after. You understand what's causing that pain. You have an insight as to how that target market needs to change how they're looking at this and what they need to do to make it happen, right? So you go out to a very targeted list with that message. It's cold. Now, if you do it right, it will work. It is effective. It happens relatively quickly, 90 days plus or minus. You can go from nothing to getting clients, but it is not efficient. So you can get viable, but you can't thrive because you run out of time, because time is your scarce resource. So you want to get to that second stage, which is referrals. That's the name of the game. And I think most people say, I would love to have a business that is based on referrals. But I will share something with you that I think might surprise some of your listeners, which is I'm not really a fan of referrals. Because here's what it is. And I ask people this, and I challenge the listeners to just follow along. So you have someone in your network who has access to people that you think could be your clients, that you would like to serve as your clients, right? That's a referral network. So you have those people. And the first question I ask is, would you like those people to introduce you to the clients who could benefit from your service? Now, if you're listening to this, raise your hand if you would say, I would love that to happen. Because my view is, I'll pass. Why will I pass on that? Because the service provider, the person in your network who's providing a service to that client you want to reach, they are asking their client to do them a favor because their client hasn't asked to meet with you. They put their client in a very awkward position. Hey, Ruben, I really think you should talk to Jay. Jay has this great way to market and sell, and I think you might be able to benefit. How about it? I'll be happy to set that up for you. What are you going to say? Like you're backed into a corner. You're going to say, oh, okay. And then we do the drill of, how do I get you to connect with me? Because you don't really want to talk. I got to chase you up, right? And eventually, you'll schedule, I'll probably reschedule a few times. It's the last thing in the fun, you're going to be like, okay, I got to get this out of the way. And it's a very polite conversation, but it doesn't really get you anywhere because it's backwards. You should be doing your clients a favor, not asking your clients to do you a favor. Yet that's what introduction is. So let's go on to the second thing. A referral. Would you like your clients to refer people to you? I say, yeah, I mean, that's the golden ticket. And I say, well, maybe bronze, not silver, not gold, not platinum. And here's why. A referral is when the client asks their service provider, hey, do you know somebody who could help me with this issue? So it's great because the client is asking and the client has intention. They are looking for an answer. Fabulous. But here's the problem. Do you think they're just asking the person you know? They're asking everybody they know. So what happens is, let's say they ask 3 people, and those 3 people only recommend one. Sometimes people recommend 2 or 3, but imagine they only recommend one, and it's a strong recommendation. But when you're the client, you're like, well, I've got 3 strong recommendations. So what are your odds of getting the work? 1 out of 3. Well, that's okay if you have no clients. But once you start to get busy, I'm not going to take meetings where I got a 1 out of 3 shot at getting the work. I don't have enough time to waste. I need 75%. I got to close 3 out of 4. And referrals will not get you to 3 out of 4. They'll get you to 1 out of 3. So you don't have a lot of clients, take the referrals. Minute you get busy, I used to get people to call me up and they'd say, Jay, Jonathan recommended you. So I need help. And Jonathan just said, you're the man. My first question to them was, who else are you talking to? And if they said, well, it's you and 1 or 2 others, I would say, I bet those 1 or 2 others probably can handle what you need because I am too busy. Thanks. Good luck. Now, if they said, you're it, I'd say, have a seat. Let's talk. Right? So referrals, it's like bronze, not gold. So what's gold? What's gold is when you have something insightful to say that changes how your target market thinks about a major pain point. We call this, in Maven speak, your provocative perspective. It is that call to action where I am going to pick something that's a big issue for you. I'm going to establish empathy. I'm going to tell you why you're having this issue, because the root cause and the symptom are normally not the same thing. I'm going to challenge how you're thinking about it, just like I did earlier with, is it you're the hero or they're the hero, right? And a great insight, simple to understand, profound in its impact, but not easy to execute on your own, right? That's the hallmark. It's contrarian. Then I'm going to give you hope. And I'm going to tell you the 3 to 4 things that you need to do. Not how to do it, but just what to do. So you can say, there is a way that I can implement this thinking and it makes sense to me, right? Now, this is what I want my network to do. I want you to take that story, my story, where the client is the hero. I am the storyteller. And I want you to verbatim tell that story to your clients. Because what do I know? If that story resonates, your client is going to ask to speak to me. And because it's my intellectual property, I am the only one that they're going to speak to. It is sole sourced. And if they don't resonate with it, they don't get on my calendar and they don't chew up my time. And that's how I get to a 75 to 80% close rate. And that is what I want my network to do. No introductions, no referrals, just please pass along my story and make sure, as they will know, it's my story for them. I am the storyteller. It's just being told by you.
So this is that notion of, I'm going to describe the customer's problem better than they can describe it to themselves in a way that changes their thinking. Like, oh, my elbow hurts. I didn't know I had tendonitis. I thought I had something else or whatever. Now I understand what I need to do. I need to call the doctor, who happens to be Jay.
Exactly. Because when you tell a story, and think about Hollywood, they're the best at this, right? Think about the TV shows or the movies that you love. And I can guarantee you that if you love it, you're identifying with the hero. You're sitting there imagining you as that hero, right? And when you can do that, you're going to love whatever the entertainment is. Now, there's that joke, the Christmas movie, or everyone knows what the #1 Christmas movie is, right? Die Hard. Die Hard with a
Die Hard.
vengeance.
That's why we're on this podcast together, because we agree on that. There are some people who
Okay.
are heathens who don't understand that.
But tell me, if you love that movie, that you don't sit there and imagine that you're Bruce Willis.
And it's a great character, especially like in the age of Schwarzenegger and Stallone. People don't remember that Bruce Willis was a comic actor when he did that,
That's right.
because it made him an action star, but he's this everyman. That's what makes it so great. He's not a superhero.
And so because you identify with that, and you can say, I could imagine myself, of course it's fantasy, doesn't matter, right? You identify with it, you love the story because you imagine you are the hero. If there's a movie out there or a genre out there that you can't identify with, you will have no interest in watching, because I'm not interested in someone else's story. I want my story and I want to be the hero. So when you hear someone say, hey, Ruben, I was talking to Jay the other day, and Jay was telling me about this really different way to think about marketing. And I want to share what he told me, because I know you're out there getting clients for your business. And then I go through that 4 stages of empathy, diagnosis, insight, and hope. And you sit there and you can say, yeah, I want that outcome. I want the outcome. You're going to want to say, I don't want to take the risk of doing this on my own and screwing it up. So this guy who told you the story that where I'm the hero, right? I think I want to talk to him, because, and here's the beautiful thing. And we sort of all know this. We've all learned this, which is when you're working with someone and you want to get somebody to listen to your advice, you have to make it so they think it's theirs. That's
Yep.
the point, right? You're not the hero. You enable them to be the hero. And let them stand up publicly and say, yes, I have built our business. I am massively successful. They will not forget who was instrumental in making it happen, but let them take the public credit, right? Bravo, bravo. You're the rock star. I
So,
just wrote the song.
folks who listen to this podcast know that I have a mantra: proposal's not a brochure, it's a story. And the hero of the story is the buyer, not the seller. Website is a story, not a brochure. The hero of the story is the buyer, not the seller. And what we're doing is taking this to the next level. Your elevator pitch is a story, not a brochure. And the hero is the buyer or the prospect, not you.
Yeah.
So, do you have some examples of elevator pitches done the right way, just for people to start noodling on?
Well, let me do this. I'm going to tell you a little story, and it's a story that I think a lot of people know who the hero is of this story, right? But they won't necessarily know the backstory, right? And that is the story of the well-known thought leader, Simon Sinek. And Simon is the one who popularized the idea that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? So it's about the why. He wrote the book and he gives keynotes and he makes $4 million a year based on what I've been able to ascertain publicly. So the question is, how did he get there, right? And he has only an undergraduate degree, never got any graduate education. Cultural anthropology was his major. It's the kind of major where your parents just go, oh my gosh, how are
He's
you
never going to
ever
make
going to make a
any
living?
money, right?
Right, right. So that's what he does. And he went to an average school and he didn't graduate with honors or anything. And I don't mean any of this to be disrespectful.
Mhm.
It's just his story. And then he goes, like a lot of young people back in the 80s, and he goes to Madison Avenue. He goes to advertising. And he's, these big ad agencies, they just take you in and they chew these young people up and spit them out. And that's what happened to him. Bounced around a little bit, didn't really make a mark that anyone can tell from the outside. And he ends up leaving and he starts his own firm, his own little firm, doing what? Who knows? Because you never heard a word from him. And then, like 7 years after he starts his firm, he gets this idea, and he has this idea about the why. And he says, how am I going to get this story out there? And this is when TED, the famous TED Talks, had started the TEDx program. And so Simon's like, wow, what if I could give a TEDx talk? And by the way, for our audience, you want to give a TEDx talk and you got something worthwhile to say and you'll follow the format, you can find a venue that will give you the slot, right? This is not that difficult to do. But here he is in New York. He's got to go all the way out to Puget Sound in Washington State to get a slot. And it's in front of 50 people. And he gives this talk on, that people buy your why, not your what. And they videoed it. And it was so compelling to people that the video started to spread and it became viral. And all of a sudden, because he told a story, and what did everybody say when they heard his story? I can do that. And they were like, I'm not doing that, but that doesn't sound hard. But they all wanted his help. They bought his books, big corporations, bring him in for keynotes at some ungodly sum of money. right? Do a little bit of consulting. And here's the amazing thing. He has been trying, he's a smart guy. He's very telegenic, he's a good speaker, but he's been trying to come up with another insight. It's been 13 years. He's never had anything that's come close. He still makes $4 million a year off of that insight. And you know what else is funny? The insight's dead wrong. Actually, no customers buy your why.
Yeah, I
Customers
don't buy
buy
why you do it.
how you
What's in
impact.
it for
Right,
me? Right.
right. So he completely got it wrong, but it sounded good. Now, in fairness, employees may buy your why, right? Because they want to resonate with the mission of the company, but not your customers, right? And so his whole premise is completely wrong. And it didn't matter because people resonated with it. So here's what I always say to people. If Simon can do this, and go on Google, type in Simon Sinek TEDx. Watch his talk. It's 18 minutes. You'll get the gist of it in the first 4, right? If he can do that, so can you.
All right.
And
So
that's how you do it.
let me ask another question. If people want to find you, let's start with your elevator pitch.
Right. So what it is that we do is we help consultants triple their referrals and get rid of their anxiety on where their future clients and revenues are going to come from. And we do that by helping them create predictability in their pipeline so they can get fully booked at fair prices and be able to pick and choose who they work with and what they want to do. But the key thing, and I think all of us out there can resonate with this, which is you can be fabulously busy today. You can be very successful making good money. And then you sit there and you're thinking to yourself, how long is this going to last? Right? Where am I going to be a year from now? Where are the clients coming from? And if you feel that anxiety, then let's talk, because we can put a process in place that will take the anxiety away, give you predictability, and let you focus on doing what it is you do best, which is adding value to your clients. That's what I do.
All right. So I want to ask another question, and it's not a gotcha question, but I was listening earlier when you said we're not supposed to use first person in our elevator pitch. And you use first person plural. You said we, not I. So I don't know if that means a distinction or not, but you said you started off with we. We help X do Y. And you told me not to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So is that, and by the way, I think it's perfectly compelling elevator pitch, but I'm not the person saying don't use the first person. Help me reconcile those two things.
So in fairness, I would say it's a good got you. When you have the opportunity, like your LinkedIn about section, right, where you have a chance to put your message up, where you are standing up in front of a group of people, right, and people say, tell me, right, it's a little more challenging when someone asks you a direct question, because you don't necessarily want to be the politician and say, yeah, well, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to tell you something different, right? So, but what you try to do as best you can is to flip it and to say, here is the issue that people have, which in our case, we deal with that anxiety about their future business, right? And if you have predictability about your future, then that anxiety goes away. And now you can concentrate on what it is that you do best. So sometimes you want to answer the question, but you want to transition as quickly as possible into talking about the you, not the me.
So when someone walks up to you and says, or you're at a networking event or you're on a Zoom or whatever, and says, hey, what do? You might say, we do X, Y, and Z. And then you do what you just did. You pivot into a lot of the folks we help suffer from anxiety, blah, 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 or whatever, right? Now you're not, you're doing the right social thing to answer the question. And then you move into, let's recenter the story around the prospect.
Right. Now, there are times when if I'm introduced to someone and I have some background And this is, by the way, between marketing and sales, right? Sales is one-to-one conversation. So I might have some sense of who I'm talking about. And then I might just start with a question. So I might, a statement question. I might say, a lot of the consultants that I speak to have this tremendous anxiety over where their future income is coming from. They don't have a process. There's no predictability. And it's and they would say it's the biggest negative of having their own business.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Does that describe you?
It's like, oh,
And
wow, Jay, I've been there. Yeah, that's true. I've been there.
right.
It's
And
great
then
when it's great, and then it sucks when it sucks.
when it sucks. And so now what I'm doing is now we're in a conversation. And who's the conversation about? Now it's about you.
Right.
Right. But that presupposes I have some sense of who I'm speaking to, because let's be frank. I could be speaking to someone who's not a prospect at all.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's someone who could be in my referral network. And now I'm going to answer that question a little bit differently. And now they have to understand both who I serve, the pain points that I resolve, but then I have to also touch on why they can become the hero for their clients if we collaborate together. And that gets to the point of, I can give you a story to tell. Now it's my story about your clients where they're the hero. Why are you the hero for telling it? Because you have a big problem in your business, which is these are your former clients or your prospects, even existing clients. And you're supposed to nurture them. You're supposed to stay top of mind. Most people don't do it. Why not? They don't have anything worthwhile to say. I am going to solve that problem for you. I'm going to give you something that your prospects, former clients, and clients are going to find incredibly valuable. And they're going to want to hear this from you. Now you are the hero. Now you want to work with me.
And if you're listening to this, think about all those times that a buddy of yours, could be a personal buddy, work buddy, colleague, whatever, vendor, says, hey, I just ran into this guy, Jay, or whomever, and they had this insight that I thought would be interesting, blah, 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 blah. And they're so excited to tell you because they think you're going to be impressed, right? Like they are the bearer of wisdom and they look good. And they don't necessarily have to say, hey, I thought of this all on my own. They say, I run into this guy. He's Simon Sinek. He has this great book or whatever, right? And you're right. They become the hero. So, Jay, if people want to learn more about how to put this into place, into practice, where can they find you?
So they can shoot me an email, and it's just my first name and last name, JAY.KINGLEY at referrability, Maven, all one word, .com, or look me up on LinkedIn. If you type in my name, I will be the only one that comes up, and you can connect with me there. And let's just start a conversation.
Awesome. And of course, if you have trouble remembering how to spell referrability, Maven, we will have all these links in the show notes. Jay, thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for listening. Drop an iTunes review or a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend who would benefit from this episode, let them know about it. If you've got a friend who wouldn't benefit from this episode, but you just haven't talked to for a while, now's a great time to give them a call. Thanks for listening. Until next time.